My father's voice was barely above a whisper. Go. Now. He didn't look at me when he said it. His eyes were fixed on the dining table, on the untouched plates, on the wine glasses already filled like nothing was wrong. But something was wrong. I felt it in my chest. Dad. I murmured. That's when my husband pushed his chair back and stood up, smiling wide, too wide. Before anyone leaves, he said cheerfully, lifting his glass, let me make a toast first. My father's hand tightened around his napkin. The room froze. We were supposed to be celebrating, new job, new house, fresh start. That's what my husband told everyone. That's what I told myself after months of swallowing doubt and explaining away the things I couldn't name. But my father had seen something the rest of us missed. Or maybe something he remembered. Sit down, my husband said gently, still smiling at me. This won't take long. I stayed standing. My mother wouldn't meet my eyes. My brother stared at his plate like it held the answers to everything. My husband raised his glass higher. To family, he said. And honesty. The word sent a chill through me. That's when I noticed it, the slight shake in his hand. The way his jaw clenched between smiles. The fact that his phone was face down on the table, buzzing non-stop. My father finally looked up at me. Sweetheart, he said quietly, if you trust me at all, leave. My husband cleared his throat. And to secrets, he continued, eyes locking onto mine. Because tonight, they don't get to hide anymore. My heart started racing. I realized then. The toast wasn't for celebration. It was a warning. And whatever he was about to say would change my life forever. The wine glass shook as my husband held it in the air. Most people wouldn't have noticed. But I'd lived with him long enough to recognize the signs, the smile that stayed too long, the voice that sounded calm while something darker stirred underneath. To honesty, he repeated. My father stood up slowly. Put the glass down, he said. The room felt smaller. The air heavier. My husband laughed softly. Come on, Dad. We're all adults here. That's when my father finally looked him straight in the eye. You don't get to call me that. Silence. My heart slammed against my ribs. What are you talking about? My husband asked, still smiling. Dad reached into his jacket pocket and placed his phone on the table. He didn't unlock it. He didn't need to. I went to the storage unit you didn't know she still had a key to, Dad said, nodding toward me. The one you told my daughter you sold. My husband's smile flickered. Dad continued, his voice steady but low. I found the passports. The cash. The burner phones. My hands went cold. I also found her medical records, Dad said. The ones you hid. My husband's glass slipped from his fingers and shattered on the floor. My mother gasped. Medical records? I whispered. Dad turned to me, pain flooding his eyes. He canceled your insurance 6 months ago. Signed your name. I felt like the room was tilting. My husband finally dropped the smile. You went snooping, he snapped. You had no right. No, Dad said. You had no right to trap my daughter. That's when I understood. The toast wasn't about celebration. It was about control. And whatever my husband had planned to confess. My father had gotten there first. My husband looked at me then, really looked at me. You should have stayed seated, he said quietly. My legs moved before my fear could stop them. I backed toward the door. And that's when the front door clicked locked. The sound of the lock snapping into place echoed through the room. Click. My stomach dropped. I just locked it so no one storms out, my husband said calmly, like he was explaining a dinner reservation mix-up. Let's finish the conversation like adults. My father moved between us without hesitation. You unlock that door, he said, voice steady but dangerous, or I call the police right now. My husband scoffed. And say what? That you don't like your son-in-law? Dad didn't argue. He picked up his phone. That's when my husband finally cracked. "You think you saved her?" he snapped, pointing at me. "From what? A better life?" I laughed, sharp and broken. "What life?" He turned to me, eyes cold. "The job in Phoenix. The relocation. The clean start." My chest tightened. "You said the offer was finalized." He hesitated for half a second. "That's all it took." "There is no job," my father said. "Is there?" Silence filled the room. My husband exhaled slowly. "Plans change." "No," Dad said. "Lies change." He turned to me. "He was moving you away from everyone. No insurance. No income. No support." My knees weakened. I grabbed the back of a chair. All those nights I cried myself to sleep, thinking I was just anxious. All those times I felt sick and he told me I was overreacting. He wasn't saving me. He was isolating me. "You were supposed to trust me," my husband said quietly. "I did," I whispered. "That's the problem." Dad stepped forward again. "Unlock the door." For a moment, I thought my husband wouldn't. Then his shoulders slumped. He unlocked it. I didn't run. I walked, past the shattered glass, past the man I thought I married, straight into my father's arms. Outside, the night air felt like oxygen for the first time in years. Behind me, my husband called my name. I didn't turn around. Because when someone shows you who they are, the bravest thing you can do is be. I woke up on my parents' couch, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like laundry soap and safety. For the first time in years, I slept without flinching at every sound. The morning light filtered through the curtains, soft and forgiving, nothing like the sharp reality waiting for me when I checked my phone. 37 missed calls. Voicemails filled with apologies, anger, and something worse, panic. "He didn't expect to lose control," my father said from the kitchen. "That's when people show their true selves." We went to the police station that afternoon. The officer listened carefully as my father explained the storage unit, the documents, the cancelled insurance. She didn't interrupt. She just took notes. "That's coercive control," she said finally. "And it's taken very seriously now." I felt something loosen in my chest. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't dramatic. I wasn't weak. By noon, a temporary protective order was filed. By evening, my husband was being questioned. But healing doesn't arrive with paperwork. It comes in small moments, like realizing I could leave the house without asking permission. Or that my phone could sit silent without fear. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with my parents. "I'm scared," I admitted. Dad nodded. "Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's leaving anyway." I looked down at my wedding ring. Then I slid it off. Not angrily. Not dramatically. Just done. Because love doesn't require fear. And control is not commitment. As I placed the ring on the table, I felt something else settle in. The beginning. The truth has a way of spreading, even when someone works hard to bury it. By the end of the week, my husband's employer had placed him on administrative leave. The storage unit wasn't just disturbing, it was illegal. Forged signatures. Financial manipulation. Documents proving he'd been planning my isolation for over a year. The toast was supposed to be his grand finale. A public moment where he'd paint me as unstable. Where my leaving would look impulsive. Where everyone would believe his version before I could speak. But my father changed the ending. In court, I spoke for myself for the first time. My voice shook, but it didn't break. "I thought love meant enduring discomfort," I said. "I was wrong. Love doesn't erase you." The judge listened. So did I. The marriage ended quietly. No dramatic scenes. No revenge. Just consequences. I moved into a small apartment near my parents. I took a job I was overqualified for but grateful to have. I went to therapy. I relearned how to trust my instincts, especially the ones I'd been trained to ignore. Sometimes, I replay that night in my head. My father's whisper. My husband's smile. The glass raised in the air. And I think about how close I came to staying seated. Here's the truth I wish someone had told me sooner, and maybe someone watching this needs to hear it now. When someone rushes you, isolates you, or asks you to ignore your fear, that's not love asking for patience. That's danger asking for silence. I didn't leave with everything. But I left with my life. And that was more than enough.